Hello and welcome back to the Python Penguin. Today I'm going to be telling you, or teaching you rather, how to make a calculator. So the key thing you're going to want to do when you're making a calculator is print. So print is essentially a function that allows you to put in numbers, like so, and then it just prints a number. But this is not all it can do. So as you can see right there, I press start, it prints number 1. Alright, so now, how do you do equations with Python? So, by typing the print command, it's just print, and the really important thing with the print command is you need the parentheses. If you're using PyCharm, which is what I'm using, and I've already talked about how to install it, boom, in the top corner of a screen, there's going to be like a notification that says like, this video is linked. You can click that video and see how to make it. So, the print function, it works in 2 ways. 1, it can be used for strings, and 2, it can be used for numbers. I'm going to be using it for numbers in this situation, but no matter what, you need to do this. The parentheses are very important. Without the parentheses, it breaks your code. So I'll just show you an example of how it works. So we have print 2 plus 3. This is a symbol for plus. 2 times 3, that's a symbol for times, not x, because x is a variable, and I can get to that later. 2 over 3, which is division. 2 minus 3, subtraction, and this one is different. 2 times 3, that's actually exponents, so 2 to the power of 3. So all you gotta do is press this, and we got 5 for 2 plus 3. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 divided by 3 is 0.6, repeating. 2 minus 3, negative 1, and 2 to the power of 3 is 8. So that's how you do all of those, but now how do you make it so that you can use it for a calculator? Because you could just type in all this manually, but why not just make one program that can do that for you immediately? For again that, I'm just going to show this, print 2. That isn't going to work, because missing parentheses in the print. So that's how you break that code, and there's lots of ways to break code, because it's just really, sometimes it's very picky, sometimes it's less so, but you gotta type in the right thing to make it work. Another thing you can do with print, which we're also going to be doing, is strings, or just words. So you have to have those. These parentheses allow you to type whatever you want. Then press play. Boom. Type whatever you want. Another example. Boom. Does that. And if you want multiple lines, you can just take the code, bring it down, bring it down. And this will actually make 3 lines of code in different parts of the thing, because auto spaces them out, auto just new line. New line is a function that you can do. I don't think we're going to be talking about that today, but that is a function you can do. With this, that essentially makes one entire paragraph just work like that. One last thing before we get right into it, we just gotta figure out what variables are. So a variable is very important. So variables are essentially what makes a word become a letter. So, for example, I could actually do x equals 10. And then, now that x equals 10, I can print x. So when I press that, 10, because x equals 10. Now there's also a way you can do it where it's just variable equals x equals 10. That is not necessary, but does do the exact same thing. If it changes around, it's now 11, it does that. Now how do you make it so that I can input anything and make it a variable? So this right here is the input function. The input function allows you to input data. So I can do that. And you see, it's going to give me a prompt. And then I type in an answer or anything, and it's just, that's the code. So that didn't really seem to do much. Just allowed me to type inside this part of the screen. What we can do with this is, well, you can do a lot with it. What you can do with this is you can assign a variable to the input. So now A is going to equal the input, which is going to be your name. And you can also use this for numbers, but doing this with numbers, it's not going to give you the result that you're expecting. So it's now prompting me to give him my name. So I'm going to say Python Penguin. And that is that. But now how do you use this? Well, you can just go to the print function, print A, and this print function will work. So if I type in my name, again, Python Penguin, enter, it shows Python Penguin in chat. So, I misspelled Python. So, how do you do this with numbers? So let's just give an example here. If I have 2 inputs, this input is going to be assigned to A, and the other input is going to be assigned to B. Yep, like so. And have these two inputs, and then a plus b equals c. That's an equation. So all I gotta do there is print c, and this will not give you the result you're expecting. So yeah, this is gonna give you a syntax error because you cannot assign to this operator, which actually that doesn't make sense because you can also it's because you're supposed to do equations like this. So now it will let you do inputs. So you're supposed to assign the thing that you want to solve for first and then your equation, otherwise it gives you that error. So let's say you type in 5 and then 5. 5 plus 5 is 55. That doesn't sound right, which is where float comes in. So when you assign float to a variable, or actually when you assign float to an input like this, it changes it from being a string, which is the words, to being actually able to be added, subtracted, divided, etc. You can also use integer, which is another command that does basically this with some small differences. And that's all you gotta do. Now, if I do 5 and 5, it equals 10. That sounds better. So, right here we have the float input, which allows you to input any number, and c equals a plus b. Now you sort of see how we're making this a bit more of a calculator. But how do we make this work automatically? So while we could do this mess of code, it does work. It does give you all the variables you need, 10, 0, 25, 3125, and 1, because 5 divided by 5 is 1. You can't really tell what is what variable, which is why you can use the print function in this really helpful way. You can have multiple things inside a print function, but the only exception is they have to be separated by a comma. So this right here is going to print the above code, a plus b equals c. That code is addition. And like so, we have that. So now we have addition, c. And if I do this for the rest of them, for example, subtraction, and comma, don't forget to end this, by the way, because it's going to include this into your string. When you use these parentheses, it's going to make a string. Or just, it's going to make words instead of numbers. Because in the computer, those are two completely different things. I'm just going to do this sort of thing for the rest of these, and I'll cut right back. So, now that I've done this with all of these, you have division, you have exponential, multiplication, subtraction, and addition. I can now run this program, and it's going to work way smoother. So, all I gotta do is 5, 5, and there we go. Subtraction is 10, addition is 10, subtraction is 0, multiplication 25, exponential 3125, division 1.0. It shows it to you right there, which makes it really easy to read. Something that you also may notice if you're using PyCharm, it gives you all these weak warnings. They can more or less be ignored. It's just for things like white space, or just no new line. Things that don't actually affect the code, but just affect kind of the aesthetic of the code. Seeing if it looks bad or good, clean or not. So, the weak warnings, you can ignore those, they're fine. They don't actually do anything to your programming. If you were to potentially do that, that's going to give you a yellow warning, which is a warning, and it just allows for the other X warnings, which are errors, which that says 3 errors, even though it's only 1. So this isn't really the best for all this, but it does tell you when there is a problem. So right here you see the 3 errors. That means there's a problem here, and that's because I removed this, I removed the comma. So if I remove the commas, this code doesn't work. So that's why you gotta keep the commas in, and that's how you divide these two apart. And if I was to also, for example, remove this, this is also gonna break the code, because division is not an assigned variable, or it should break the code. It has broken the code a few times. Yeah, division is not defined. So if you have an undefined variable, it's gonna break the code, which leads to some errors down the line, but those are down the line. So now that you know how to do all the basics, let's get into looping. So loops are very important. So you have a while, and this means that everything that is happening while this thing is in place, for example, while 2 is greater than 1, that means this will loop infinitely, or should loop infinitely. And, most importantly, semicolon. So the semicolon allows for this to work functionally But then there's another problem. The problem is that for a loop, you need everything to be on the same tab, so it doesn't confuse itself with its own code. Because if you have something right here, it's out the loop. If you have something right here, it's in the loop. So you're gonna actually see a whole bunch of errors here. This code will not work, because what you need here is indent. So all you gotta do, press tab on your keyboard on all the code that you have, and now it's all a part of the loop. And if you want something to not be a part of the loop, all you gotta do is put something outside of the loop. So break that. Now we have print not in loop. That print isn't on loop, and it shouldn't show up unless I did the this wrong. No, I did not do that wrong. Okay, great. So now we have that, and it's asking us to insert more numbers. So we can continue doing this forever. And that's a lot of words though. So what if we can make it so that was less words? And that didn't tell us all of them, but only one. This is where this code gets a little more complicated. It's also a good time for me to mention there are other types of loop. This is just an infinite loop. You can also have for loops, which are just loops that loop for when something is something. So loops, there's many types, and we may have use for them in a later date. As of now, we just have these loops. So we're gonna use these. Now we're gonna talk about for. So we're gonna have another variable enter. We're gonna go down here, and we are going to have a variable called, and you can have variables of multiple letters. What type of symbol? Symbol is our new variable. We're gonna do this variable and make it equal to an input, just a normal input. Now, by having the symbol equal to an input, whatever you input here is the variable. But something we need to do before that works, because it's just not gonna automatically do all this, we need to set what they have to type in the thing for it to become a variable. So here we go. Now we have this entire string, which is plus for addition, minus for subtraction, times for multiplication, slash for division, and exponent for exponent. So this code won't do what we're thinking yet. That's because we currently have not assigned anything to these variables that they're going to input. So what they're going to input is symbol, and we can use that very effectively. Let me just start this again. It's going to give us a this, because I forgot a parenthesis there. That's my bad. Let's do that. Alright, great. And now we can just do 10, 10, and then it's going to give us this prompt, but it does nothing yet. That's because we don't have for. Or actually, we don't have if, not for. We don't have ifs. So if is something like, if this is the thing, then this happens. So let me just type in an if statement. So here's what an if loop looks like. All I gotta do, press start, and I did an invalid syntax. 1 second, just gonna fix that real quick. So in an if loop, you need these. Semicolons. Semicolons are pretty important for the things that require tabs. Like this one, you see that's tabbed over, that's because it is inside of the if. That's why I was saying it was a loop. It's not really a loop, though it is kind of important. So, if A. So, here you can see, if A equal 1. Double equal sign means that it's equal to, and it's going to give you a true or a false. And this one is also going to be A equal 2. The reason why they're in parentheses is because this isn't a float or integer, so this is a string. So I'm essentially making these also a string. So let's say I insert 1. It's going to tell me hi. Now, if I insert 2, with no change to the code, it inserts by. That's because if A is equal to 2, it says by. If A is equal to 1, it prints hi. So that is how these for statements work. You can also use the statement else, which means that if any number, it doesn't just have to be A or a 1 or 2. If any number is not 1, it is by. So let's say I type in 1 million. Not sure that is a million. Types by. That is only because of the program telling me that if it's not 1, it's by. 1 is high, anything else is by. So if-else statements are really important. There's also else-ifs. We're not going to talk about those, but what we will talk about is how we can use these if statements in our program to tell us or show us how to make a calculator. So welcome back to our original code. All I gotta do here is do a bit of that and then type an if statement. So if is very important, because this one will go on forever, but, oh, hold on, I may have done that a bit early. I did do that too early. So we have A and B, and then that thing right there. So we are going to type a for statement right after this symbol. So bada bing, bada boom, we have all the if symbols in place. So I got this if symbol, which is equal to plus the string. So let me just start this program with the semicolon on else, and then I can type in my numbers. I've just added a bit more flavor text so it makes more sense, and now we insert number 1, which is going to be 100. We insert number 2, which is going to be 4. Then we insert plus, minus, times, slash, or exponent. So we can do any of these. I'm going to do exponent right now, and now it has prompted us with exponential, which is this number. And then I also did a break loop here, so it didn't loop forever. I'm just going to remove that, so now it allows it to loop forever. And now, once I remove that break, which just breaks loops, you can now do as many equations as you want in any style. So let's say I want to do subtraction. 95, 100 minus 5. Let's say that you want to get 69 420 to the power, alright, of 69 420. I actually did that in the wrong order. So do my 69 420 again right here, and then do my exponent. So now we have 69 420 to the power of 69 420. It's an overflow error. The power is just too much there. But that is how you make a calculator. This entire program will also be in the link in the description below. Actually, not in the link in the description. I'll just put this entire thing in the description. It'll make sense in the YouTube algorithm, right? Yeah, it makes perfect sense. This will be in the description, or actually, the comment section down below. I'll copy and paste this code here in case you want to, look at it, edit it, do whatever you can. So, with that, Python Penguin out. Keep on coding, and have a great day or night.